Taking some time to do a little bit of cleanup work while the cab's off. Areas that I can't reach with it on. Top of the frame rail there. And probably going to clean up a little bit of the engine here. You guys can see all this rust that fell out of the cowl. I'll show you guys. YouTube, how's it going? Welcome back to AJ's Garage. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you're new to the channel, this is my 1974 F350. I've had the truck a few years now, and my mission with it has been to get it back on the road and use it to pick up and rescue other trucks. It's come quite a long way. I've done quite a bit of work to it already, and there is light at the end of the tunnel. I'm in the middle of getting everything ready for a 4-speed swap. Well, actually everything is ready. I just need to get all the 4-speed components in the truck. But I came across something that I really couldn't pass up on. If you have followed along with the truck, it's been in an accident, it got hit, or something happened to it and caused a lot of damage to the cab. The front end, of course, was replaced whenever that happened, but I'll show you guys all the damage to the cab. And the more I think about it, it just really isn't worth replacing. Well, we're gonna be replacing it, but it really isn't worth fixing it. So I picked up a new cab. I'll show you guys that. It's at a different location, but I'll show you guys everything that's going on with it. I pretty much got the cab ready for removal, but let me show you guys the last few steps. So before I give you guys a closer view of the cab, I just want to apologize if the sound quality is a little bit off. It is quite windy today. We are finally getting a break from all the rain and overcast weather, and we've got mostly clear skies. But as far as the truck goes, I've replaced the passenger side and the driver's side fender. The front end has been gone through, replaced some of the hardware. I've replaced the passenger side inner fender. For some reason, it was all cut up. The driver's side fender does need some work. A little bit of Bondo here, so I'm just gonna cut out a little patch and replace that. But besides that, this is solid. You can see kind of some of the damage and the hit here. The gap here is way different from over on that side, and just how this kind of lines up. I've already removed some of the things from the cab, and the rear cab mounts are gone through. I removed the bolts, and you can see this was on the driver's side. So you can see the force of the accident, how it messed up the cab. This is the passenger side. That one actually has a little bit of a tilt to it. But as far as the damage goes, this is all pushed up. The firewall is all bent out of shape. Can't really see it from this side, but the transmission tunnel, the hump here, is actually higher than the passenger side. And there is a lot of rust up in the cowl. So overall, it is just going to be way easier to replace the cab. So last thing I need to do is the cab mount bolts at the front here, and you can see the damage there as well. Quick view of the engine bay, and as you guys can see, I've just got all the wiring piled up here on top of the engine. Passenger side inner fender is clear. Wiring is kind of tucked up out of the way. Same thing on the driver's side. The last thing that I need to remove is the emergency brake cable. Once that is disconnected, the cab is pretty much free and ready to go. I think the way I'm going to do it is unbolting it from the cab there. The inner fenders rest on those, so rather than taking these 3 bolts out and trying to lift it up and push it back, I can just unbolt that and push the cab back on both sides, and it should come free. I will, of course, have to support the weight of the front end, but it's all ready to go. The driver's side cab mount bolt, I did have to go to extreme measures to remove, but it is clear and ready to go. All right, guys, so here's the cab that we're going to be using on the 74 F350. I did, of course, use the 70 F250 to go pick it up, but cab is in really, really good shape. It was off of a 77 F100. Has a small dent back here in the cab corner. I'll show you guys that in a second. and only rust on the cab was the passenger side floor pan, so no big deal. We'll be able to fix that right up. I did already order a few pieces, a steering column cover and heater control, because it's missing on this one, on the cab. But cab is white with a blue interior. Someone tried to repaint this, so eventually I'll probably try to clean this off, get some of this new paint off. We're gonna plug that up. Got a hole here. I'm not sure what that was for, but we'll get that plugged up. Cab has the heater, which is nice, fully intact, so I'm gonna pull this out today and we'll get that cleaned up and put back in. So for now, I just want to remove everything from the interior, try to get the cab cleaned up as nice as possible before we swap it. The wiring is completely intact, so should be able to use that the same. Everything should hook right up. And here's a view of the inside. I did kind of clean it out already, but do plan to clean it out some more. Here is the blue dash. Do need to cut the hole out for the transmission there, so no big deal, but wiring looks like it all should pair right up. I did remove some of the wiring on the dually already, some things that I want to swap over. If anything is different, I can just de-pin some of these and use the connectors from the other truck. Of course, we're going to replace the seat belts, but really, really solid. And that small little dent here. But I'm going to remove the heater real quick and we'll go from there. So with the heater box out, you guys can see just how clean this cab is. A light scrub with an SOS pad will really clean up this surface rust. Maybe some touch-up paint here or there, but it is really, really clean. Here's a closer look at the rust on the passenger side floor pan. And I actually happen to have a replacement floor pan ready, so that makes it real convenient. We'll clean up some of this as well and just put some rust reformer over it for now. I eventually will probably order carpet for this, since this floor is so clean. I just want to make sure everything up here seals up really, really well. But this is as far as I'm going to get today. We're starting to lose daylight, so in a few days here I should have some time and we'll swap the cab over to the 74 F350. One big difference between this cab and the current cab is it doesn't have the clearance lights, but I've already removed all that wiring, and it actually starts with this connection here, and then you run them up to the roof, and another one that runs over to the starter solenoid and gets power from there. Besides that, the cargo light is another thing that I'm going to wire in, and I'll do those in a separate video so you guys will see how to add those to your truck if you choose to. You would just have to go find a original harness at the junkyard for the cargo light or the cab marker lights, and then you can wire it into this. All right, guys, so it's been probably close to about 2 months since we picked up the cab, but it is finally time to get it swapped onto the dually. Drove the truck over here this morning, and I think the easiest route is going to be just to pull up the truck right alongside, unload it kind of in place where it should go, and then we don't have to do too much moving around. But as far as the cab that's currently on the truck, I just removed the bolts to the inner fender mounts to the cab, so it should be able to just slide back. And as far as that cab, I'm just going to chop it up. I'll show you guys all the rust and how bad it really is, but I think that's the easiest route to go. I might save a few pieces, but for now I just need to get the doors off, remove the glass, and we'll get started. Sorry if the audio is not super clear, it's a little windy, but one of the things that I wanted to take advantage of while the cab's off is replacing the cab mounts and the bushings. If you guys have never taken one of these apart, it's a two-piece cab mount. So this top piece, bottom piece presses in, and the bushings of course go in between, but these can get really, really rusted, and they're pretty hard to remove. I actually found a way to do it online on the forums, and I tried it on the passenger side and it works. So this is a 7/16 bolt. I want to say it's about 6 inches long, but you just thread it in and it'll thread into the bottom half here. You don't need it to engage all the way down, but that's kind of poking through the bottom a little bit. And then just take a heavy hammer and you're just going to smack it, and they should separate. So I'm all prepped and ready to get the cab back on the truck. I ended up just using some wood to support the front clip. Those worked out perfect. I just had that spare wood laying around. And then once we get the cab pushed back up, should be able just to bolt these back up and we'll be all set on the front end. Taking some time to do a little bit of cleanup work while the cab's off. Areas that I can't reach with it on. Top of the frame rail there. And probably gonna clean up a little bit of the engine here. You guys can see all this rust that fell out of the cowl. I'll show you guys all that rust, but you can just see everything that fell out of there. But time to get the cab on. So new poly bushings are in. I ordered those off of Summit, and this was my vision as far as unloading it off the truck. So the cab is already in the right orientation, facing forward. Should be able just to slide it off, and it's a little high, but should be able to pull it over the frame and kind of set it down that way. So let's see how this goes. All right guys, so cab is on the chassis, not completely lined up as you can tell. I'll let you guys know why here in a second. But I did get the doors back on. Just wanted to clean up a little bit, got some pieces put back in. I used the strikers off of the 74 cab. It had these little sleeves on there, which lined up the doors a lot better. The 77 strikers were, I'm guessing, a little bit different, but like I mentioned, I put a few things back in here, welded up some holes there. I eventually will clean out this floor, but I do also want to cut out the transmission tunnel. I'll show you guys how I do that. I want to do that before I get the seat in and kind of put everything back together. Now, as far as the cab not sitting where it's supposed to, if I can get down here and show you guys. So this cab is off of a 77, and you can tell that's where the cab mounts and the bushings used to sit. So on the later models, I'm not sure what year they changed, but the bushings and the cab mounts are inboard or inside the frame, whereas on the 74 they're out. So luckily I still have that there, so all I have to do is drill that and then make a hole in the cab, just like the one you guys saw on the floor now, and that should get us our bolt location somewhere in here. Once I drill that first hole, I'm going to continue to drill up so it locates it on this side, makes it easy just to kind of cut through. So once I get those drilled out, we'll get the cab mounted, we'll get the front all situated, and I'll catch you guys back up there. So the last thing that I want to do to wrap up this cab swap before I get the seat back in is cutting out the hole for the transmission. Now, to make it real simple, and of course I want to make this look as factory as possible, it doesn't need to be perfect, but I went ahead and cut out the section from the cab that was on the truck, and we're going to just drop this into place here. We're just going to trace around, and then I do have the cover that I'm going to use. So once I get this all cut out, I'm going to put that on. We're going to punch the holes, and then that way everything lines up how it's supposed to be. So as far as this goes, just going to take a Sharpie and mark a general line. So this is the transmission cover that I'm going to be using. This thing is in really, really good shape. I was able to get this off of a parts truck. This and a few more things that are going to go towards the 4-speed swap. But I've got all the bolt holes marked out with the Sharpie. And as far as cutting out the hole here, it turned out pretty good. I did probably take a little bit off, too much off here, not enough down here at the bottom, but no one's going to see this. It's more for just my peace of mind, knowing that it looks as close to OEM as possible. So I'm just going to drill these out. We'll spray some rust reformer for now to prevent it from rusting, and we'll get the seat back in. And that's it for the cab swap. As far as fitment goes, I'm really happy with how everything's lining up. Fender looks good, the hood gaps look good. The door could still use a little bit of adjustment, but not too concerned there. I just wanted to get everything to line up. Bushings are all tightened down. Put the covers back on here. Replace the straps here that secure the inner fender to the cab, just missing the hardware. I ordered those off of LMC. And as far as the interior goes, I'm really happy with how the blue dash ties in with the door panels, the seat, and the belts. On the other cab, the dash was white. But I'm still undecided whether I'm going to do carpet in here or like a rubber floor mat. Before I start on the 4-speed swap, I want to pull the dash off, clean everything up on the firewall, since there's no pedals or heater box in. I still want to paint the top part up here. Not sure what color yet, whether it's black or this original blue, but very happy with how everything turned out. Now let me show you guys the main reason why we replaced the cab. Show you how bad the rot and the rust was on the other cab. So I have this front piece just over on the side of my house until I chop it down into pieces and get rid of it. But you can see just all the accumulation, some of the damage on the firewall, the cowl, and the main part is all this rust underneath the cowl. This would have been pretty much impossible to try to repair. So it was just a lot easier to replace the whole cab.